One of the sweetest people you would ever meet.
Around midnight is when that 911 call came into dispatch from a 14-year-old boy who lives in that home where this happened. He said his mother's ex-boyfriend, Michael Wade, came into their house and started shooting. The teen then took his 12-year-old brother outside and they hid behind a shed until deputies could get to them.
This is Love Hurts. Don't forget to subscribe, thumbs up, and hit that notification bell for future content. 35-year-old Krista Sudduth had an amazing spirit. She was truly one of the sweetest people you would ever meet, the type that would give you the shirt off her back and the shoes off of her feet. She was down to earth, yet she had a playful spirit at times. Krista was the mother of two kids, and her boys were her entire world. Everything she did was for them. Her life was truly dedicated to her kids. She was all about family and she loved family. So it wasn't a surprise when Krista and her children moved in with her grandmother to help care for her. Krista's grandmother was 72-year-old Ruby White, and like a lot of grandmothers, she was the glue that held the family together. She was incredibly loving and she welcomed the extra help from Krista with open arms. Although Krista's main purpose for moving in with her grandma was to help out, she also saw it as a fresh start for her and her boys. She had recently broken off a pretty serious relationship with 48-year-old Michael Lee Wade. Very little is known about Krista's relationship with Michael, but sources say he was controlling. He would basically interrogate Krista anytime she left his side. He wanted to know exactly where she was at all times and who she would be with. He constantly questioned her on her whereabouts. And even that wasn't good enough for him. He would call her obsessively anytime she wasn't in his presence. And if that wasn't bad enough, he could be verbally abusive at times as well. But the straw that broke the camel's back was the fact that Michael was a married man. He had convinced Krista that he was going to get a divorce over and over again. But of course, that never happened. He was just stringing Krista along the whole time. After 3 years with Michael, Krista called it quits and moved in with her grandmother for a fresh new start. Within a few months of ending her relationship with Michael, Krista began dating 32-year-old Ivy Frank. When they met, there was an instant connection, and many say that Krista seemed happier than she had ever seemed before. But there was one person who couldn't be further from happy: Michael Wade. He was livid over the fact that Krista moved on so soon. In the beginning, he tried to ignore it and just move on with his life. But the more time he spent thinking about it, the more the rage began to build up inside of him until his emotions boiled over like a pot of hot water. Michael was a volcano and he was ready to erupt any moment. On the night of June 26th of 2019, a 911 call came in just before midnight. It was Krista's 14-year-old son reporting a shooting at his great-grandmother's home. He told authorities his mother's ex-boyfriend Michael had kicked down the front door and came in shooting. He was able to grab his 12-year-old brother and run out the back of the home and into the shed outside. When police arrived, they were met with a gruesome scene. Krista, her grandmother Ruby, and her boyfriend Ivy all lay dead from multiple gunshot wounds. Michael fled the scene shortly after the shooting, but police knew exactly who they were looking for.
You on the breaking news in Baton Rouge, the suspect accused of shooting and killing three people overnight, just identified by the sheriff's office as Michael Lee Wade. This investigation continues just off of South Harrells Ferry Road. We have new information. Liz Coe standing by just about 15 minutes ago. Liz, we've learned the victims' names.
Graham, exactly. They just released that information and you identified him there. Michael Lee Wade, we're told he is 48 years old and he's in custody right now at the Violent Crimes Unit. And we're also learning the identities of the three victims involved in this triple homicide shooting. Krista Sudduth, that we're told that was Wade's ex-girlfriend, Ruby White, which is Sudduth's grandmother, and Ivy Frank, which is Sudduth's current boyfriend. Now, three people identified there, all connected here. The triple homicide happened just before midnight. The East Baton Rouge coroner's office leaving just before 6 a.m. And here's that rough timeline that detectives have kind of pieced together. Around midnight is when that 911 call came into dispatch from a 14-year-old boy who lives in that home where this happened. He said his mother's ex-boyfriend, Michael Wade, came into their house and started shooting. The teen then took his 12-year-old brother outside and they hid behind a shed until deputies could get to them. The sheriff says that 14-year-old boy gave authorities an accurate description of Wade and the vehicle he was driving, and that helped because when deputies got to the scene, they actually saw Wade leaving the scene and they chased him into the Shenandoah subdivision. That's where they were able to arrest him.
Right now, we're just processing the scene, and the investigation will go on into the early morning hours, and then hopefully we'll be able to get to the bottom of it.
Deputies located the vehicle and a chase ensued, but eventually Michael gave up and he was taken into custody. The community and those who knew Michael were in complete shock. They knew that he wasn't the most faithful man, but they certainly had no clue that he was violent.
Well, tonight we are hearing from the triple murder suspect's friend. He says he was surprised to find out what happened. NBC Local 33's Kennedy Walker is the only reporter to go one-on-one with the man who says he's not surprised his friend is in trouble and what he says about the future of their relationship.
Do you think this is something that he's capable of?
I guess. I guess honestly, yes.
Patrick McCarron says he and Michael Wade have been friends for nearly 2 decades.
It's not the side of Mike I know. That's kind of a surprise because every time I see him, he's always in a good mood.
McCarron says this morning he woke up to devastating news.
I was in total shock, so I didn't know what had happened. Sometimes when people get angry and emotional, they do things they regret.
According to McCarron, Wade, who is married, was very vocal about his infidelity.
I did find it kind of uncomfortable sometimes. Because I know the guy's married and he's talking about the women. He's sometimes, just between guys,
Michael, who had no history of violence, refused to be interviewed shortly after his arrest because he claimed to have been intoxicated at the time of the murders. He was still charged with triple murder in what police are now calling a crime of passion. Prosecutors are seeking the death penalty, and the case is currently still making its way through the court system. My heart truly goes out to all the victims' family and friends who were affected by this tragedy, especially Krista's kids. They didn't deserve to lose their mother in that way. If you are in a domestic violence relationship, create an out plan and get out now. Once you are out, do not turn back. Turning back can cost you your life. As always, love, stay safe. Don't forget to subscribe.